WrestleTalk!
After vacating the Women's World Championship last week, Rhea Ripley that is, Becky Lynch won it in a battle royal on this week's show. But was she the right choice?
Yes.
I'm Luco indeed. Well, okay, well.
Look, I'm here for you to keep telling me to keep it brief. I've had a week off. I'm in. Let's go.
I'm Luco indeed, AD. I'm joined by the Professor, the Truth, your former Jam That Champion, Dan Layton. And welcome to the WrestleTalk podcast review of Monday Night Raw. Please do press the subscribe button. Give us a little thumbs up as well while you're at it. Leave a comment down below with what you thought of this episode and the choice of Becky Lynch being the Women's World Champion. And if you're watching us live, join our SWAF Nation, join our wonderful live community and get your thoughts in. We'll read out anyone's thoughts on the air from WrestleTalk.com/support.
If you keep calling me the former champion, I don't have a... I could like Triple H with Lillian Garcia. I don't have a ramp to come storming down and have a go at you. So
yeah. Well, I mean, eventually I'll get tired of it.
I don't know that you will, because you tend to find a joke and run with it for as long as possible.
Do you know what? It's because I've been so used to calling. I've been
longest
the
reigning.
Professor, the Truth, your Jam That
Yeah,
Champion.
yeah.
I've got to find my new rhythm now when I'm introducing you.
I'm all about putting over young talent, and that's what happened with Sat.
Yeah.
I sort of gave it to him.
Speaking of putting over younger talent, Becky Lynch won the Women's World Championship. I'm joking, of course. I'm being facetious. Like I said this in my edited review because I did see. I don't go on Twitter much these days, but after I've watched a show, I'll just go and have a quick browse just to get a bit of a lay of the land. Not a lot of people talking about this show I saw, and then I went to like Reddit and sort of see the reactions that people have got to certain things, kind of prepare myself for what I might encounter while I'm doing my day-to-day job. And I saw a lot of people down on this.
Which is nuts to me, but also not nuts to me at all.
Yeah, because it reminded me of, remember a handful of weeks ago, a couple of months ago, you and I led with the podcast title was like, is Becky Lynch overpushed?
Yeah.
Because there was a real like backlash and
Yeah.
negative sentiment towards Becky Lynch that she's always been, where's the new people coming up? Where's Liv Morgan?
Yeah.
Where's this and the other? So when Becky won here, like, I'll be honest, when the match started, I was like, oh, Becky's the only viable winner of this match outside of Liv for the storyline reasons, but Becky's the only one who feels like an actual star here. And I think, and I said this in my edited review, this felt like a break glass in case of emergency moment. Your top star goes out, so you just replace her with your other top star.
Mm-hmm.
So Becky Lynch is completely the right choice. You had a planned vacation, scrap that off, John Moxley. We've got a world title situation on our hands. We need you to come back to work.
Yeah.
And Becky came back to work, and she won this match, and she is the new Women's World Champion. And I really do think it's probably the right call.
I mean, so we'll get very heavily into it because I have a lot, unsurprisingly, to say about this particular match segment choice. And I think what's really interesting about the reaction online is that it was inevitable. I think that a lot of, regardless of who won, there was going to be some form of whinge-tastic extravaganza. Women's wrestling has a fascinating impact on Twitter, I think. Liv Morgan has a very vociferous and, energized fan base. And equally that means some people are there to sort of like counteract and fight that. And then there's the Becky Hogan things, which is stuff and nonsense, but not a million miles away, which I'll get to in a second what I mean by that. So there was always going to be a little bit of, and then people who think Nia Jax is the worst thing ever in the history of the world, in spite of what has been, I think, a massively successful return.
Very successful comeback.
So I think there was always going to be a bit of a fight going on, a bit of negativity online. Also, it's online. There's negativity. You can't sort of escape from that.
I think this would have happened in the men's division.
Yeah, I do too. And I think there was something, so when you look at the show, and how it went down, going into it, I was really sour on the concept of the Battle Royal. I was like...
Me too.
I was like, you wouldn't do this for the men's titles.
Absolutely not.
And that is something that some people see as a sort of bad faith argument from my perspective. And I did think about that, and I was like, okay, when I say something like that, why qualify it? And I remembered the Kurt Angle one and the Great Khali one. And I was like, I just don't think it would be done by that. And I actually went back and watched them. And if you watch the 2006 Kurt Angle Battle Royal, it shared some similarities with this one, not least that it was populated by an awful lot of tag teams, including but not limited to London and Kendrick. and also Vito was there with Nunzio.
Just whoever's on the roster.
It literally is that. Plus Mark Henry, and then Kurt Angle is drafted over from Raw to make up the numbers. JBL goes out, and Rey Mysterio. Those are the big ones.
They needed some names.
Yeah, there was a handful of names, in exactly the same way as you said this one was. So I was like already sour on the idea of it. The Queen of the Ring tournament's coming up. Maybe there's an opportunity. Maybe you just run a big gauntlet match. And then every time I thought about it, I was like, okay, what would I do instead? Maybe like a round robin thing. And then I thought about the people you might put in that round robin. And it is Liv, Nia, and Becky. And they actually did a really good job, I think, of in going into WrestleMania, sort of letting them have that kind of competition. So in a way, that's stale. Do you know what I mean? So there's something about that was not going to go down. So going in, kind of sour. And then they pulled off something that I think was quite remarkable, which was a battle royal that did an awful lot to push the division as a whole, to kind of showcase various talent, do something. And then there was one through narrative, and the reason that Becky's the right choice at the end that I think it beautifully book-ended the segment. Having them announce at the beginning, putting it on par of this is a special moment. Oh, very rarely does this happen. Again, it's all about, PR, and it's all about framing devices and how you frame a thing. And I thought they did a decent job of trying to frame it in a certain way. I think the other reason I was so sour on it is because when I think Battle Royal for a championship, Intercontinental Championship, US Championship, they've always been a bit limp. And I also specifically, when I think of a women's Battle Royal, think of Gail Kim eliminating herself because she was told, go out there, eliminate yourself as quick as possible, just get this over with. That's how women were treated. And after all of this time, this company they can say new era all they want, right? They can really go off on one about how this is a different company now. This is a new era. They said it about 12 times on this episode of Raw. They have to walk the walk. They have to earn that kind of patience from us that they can hear they're going to book a Battle Royal and we go, they're not going to do this badly. Do you know what I mean? So when Gail Kim gets referenced on TV as winning a world championship, yes, that's massively revisionist history. But it shows a different perspective. And I was like, all right, let's see how you do it. And then I thought, what an effective Battle Royal this was, with all the trappings that a Battle Royal carries with it, an effective match.
I, like you, was disappointed when they announced it was a Battle Royal. We actually joked in the office. Tempest and I were saying, because they announced last week, we're going to crown a new champion next week. And me and Tempest were like, what are they going to do? Like a one-night tournament or something like that. And then we both went, well, they could do a Battle Royal. We haven't done one of those for about 20 years. And we're like, no, this is a new era. They'll think of something better. So when they announced it was a Battle Royal, I was like, that is the Route 1 laziest option that you could have picked. Granted, you're in a slightly tricky predicament. You've got a lack of stars in your women's division at the moment because you haven't spent the time building anyone. You have just kind of trundled a lot of people into a tag division that gets 2 to 3 minute matches every week that are with interchangeable pair-ups, and then your tippity top stars. And then you were in a situation where one of your tippity top stars was injured and the other one was on vacation. So it's like, okay, cool. Well, we'll pull the other one back from vacation, and now once they announced that Becky was in the match, I was like, oh, well, Becky will probably win then, because that'll be the safest option. I said on last week's show that I think it was the right move to crown a new champion this week from a business perspective. You've got house show loops that you need to sell. You need world titles defended on those house shows in order to try and pull in the tickets. So crowning a new champion, I didn't think they were going to wait until Queen of the Ring to crown a new champion. Backlash is soon. You probably already sold out the shows that are coming up soon, so it probably would have been something you probably could have foregone. But I did think a Battle Royal was Route 1 laziest way to get a win. I also think it feels underwhelming, because Battle Royals inherently are a bit naff.
Yes, I agree with that.
Like, it does not have the cool trappings of a Royal Rumble where you get to pop for entrances and sort of like build to different spots and stuff. Battle Royals, by and large, are the exact same match every single time. And I do think this was your template Battle Royal with a very good final three.
I think I was going to...
Which is the usual trappings of a Battle Royal is every Battle Royal you've ever seen with a good final two.
Yeah.
So at least they went the extra mile here to have a good final three.
I think I was also going to, going into the show, I was expecting to come in and pitch, here are the ways they could have done this better. And I had a whole, with the draft in mind and NXT call-ups and all the rest of it, I was like, there are so many different ways you could approach this that is not just lumping them in a Battle Royal, which is why I was so pleasantly surprised now that we've done that bit. I personally was very pleasantly surprised by how much I loved the match, how much I loved the various different stories that were in there, how much I loved character work from lots of different women in the match, and then where it built to and how they managed to make it feel like a match with stakes and a match with challenges, rather than just like, you want a battle royal, congrats, here's a belt. It was like, you're going to earn this, and it's going to make it feel competitive, and I'm going to do what I can do to make certain women feel threatening in a way that perhaps they haven't been in a while. Do you know what I mean?
I think they did that certainly potentially with Piper. I think
I've got a few.
I think that they did a good job of setting Piper up as a first challenger. Because Becky eliminated Piper Niven from the match, and then Piper Niven dragged her.
Piper Niven drugged her.
She drugged her. Like it's a new era.
It's not PG anymore, folks.
Cody said bitch on last week's show. No, she dragged her out of the ring and was going to try and put her through a table. She then dragged Nia Jax out of the ring as well. Didn't eliminate her, just dragged her out of the ring. But it was kind of Nia that was the one that stood tall in the end. She body slammed, or she tried to choke slam Piper Niven onto Becky Lynch. I am the table, it did not break.
Yeah.
So she hoisted her up into a Samoan drop. I am the table, it did not break again. Raw rolls on. We came back from the commercial and the table was broken. It was like, during the commercial break, Nia finally broke the table.
I actually weirdly feel like that made it almost more effective, because it made it feel like a proper brutal ow, ow, ow.
It did. Yeah. I mean, I thought Piper Niven's reaction to it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Because Nia was like, stupid metal tables, and Piper was like, yeah, tell me about it.
Right. It's supposed to hurt rather than look like something that, you know, it's cool that we all love a table break, but that sold it to me almost more than it breaking first time. So that was something I thought was effective. When I'm talking about character work and it being effective, I'm not necessarily talking about building a challenger, because the problem Triple H has had with this entire run, as you know, since taking over in 2022 or whatever, the women's division has been his massive exception to what has otherwise been quite a successful run.
I think it says a lot that he often has less women's wrestling on his shows than AEW does. And the biggest criticism you can always level against AEW is that it has treated its women's division terribly from day one.
Yeah. And I think that it's not even necessarily just about the amount of minutes they're on screen. It's the effort that goes into those minutes, personally. And I think that that's been one where it's like, because, okay, great, you put on a bunch of tag team matches, but what have you done with them, right? What have you done? And as you say, it's like a revolving door of, okay, well, these guys lost their challenge, so it's these guys turn next, and then these guys, and we're back to the front of the circle and all that stuff.
It's the Party Girls versus Zoe and Shayna, and then next week it's The Way versus the Party Girls, and then it's Indus and Candice versus Chelsea and Piper, and it's just sort of like spin the wheel. Who is it this week?
That's a failing. And that's been, and then, you know, what we've seen elsewhere on SmackDown and things like that, there have been failing. I think they are doing bits to improve that. And where I saw that here, and specifically the reason I think Becky was the right choice to bring it back to the kind of central theme of the video today, is that we had that frankly incredible opening where a big scrap is going down, and Becky takes the mic off Jackie and is going to be, you know, it's her turn for the single camera shot this week. Everyone gets one. She's doing a little hype crowd thing. She walks past Maxine, who earlier on in the show has had a proper dressing down from a horrible, horrible man in Chad Gable, which we'll talk about that when we get to that segment. And Becky sees her and goes over and says, "This is your first chance at a world title, right?" And she's like, yeah, it is. And she's like, go out there and show them why it won't be your last. And what I loved about that is that it's not saying, you could win this tonight. It's not saying, you know, it's all right, babes. Don't worry, babes. You're beautiful, babes. It's saying, step up.
Yeah.
You've had a shit day. Sorry. And I've been off. You've had a bad day. I think that was unfair. I don't like the way they treated you. Come on, let's do it. That really lifted my soul a little bit, and I went, oh yeah, this is why I love Becky.
It's a good reaction to the backlash that Maxine has had from online trolls as well.
Yeah, and exactly. And so then that, through the course of the match, mirrored at the end when Becky's got the belt and she goes off into the crowd, and all, like, just girl after girl gets to stand next to Becky Lynch and be like, can I have a picture with you and take selfies?
That's it.
Even my heart grew.
Yeah,
You're a dad of daughters.
Oh, absolutely. Well, this is what I mean. Singular. But this is what I mean, because I looked at the live chat there and someone was like, well, Becky was a star 6 years ago. And I'm like, well, tell that to her merchandise
Becky's
sales.
a star now, mate.
Because she's a New York Times best-selling author. Her merchandise sales are still through the roof. You put her on a ticket, people will buy that ticket because people love Becky Lynch.
Yeah.
It's not... You were a star 6 years ago. You were, and you're still a star now.
She means a lot to people, and she means a lot specifically to young girls. And that's an important thing. And it's something that often, especially with a wrestling audience that is predominantly made up of a certain type of guy, looks down on and sneers at, honestly.
Here is one thing I would have done to have fixed this Battle Royal. Have the SmackDown stars in it as well.
Well, so this was where I was talking about the draft and maybe having someone else vie for an opportunity and like having a, be like, oh, trying to get Pierce's ear. But
if you'd have had Bianca in this and Jade in
They've got plans
this,
for Bianca and Jade elsewhere.
That doesn't matter. That's star power, and this match was lacking in star power because what this was Becky, Nia, Liv, and a bunch of nobodies.
Right,
and so it just meant the first 3/4. 5/6 of this match were just waiting to get to that final 3 because that was the inevitable final 3 of the match.
I agree with that.
But if you had some extra star power in there that don't need to win, Becky should always be the eventual winner of this match. It would have elevated this match somewhat and would have elevated the title as well.
So where I disagree with that is that great to bring over Jade and Bianca only to have them be eliminated. Right, I don't think that's necessary, and I think
you can create a storyline out of it,
and I think that's what they've done here, right? And I think that's what it's keeping them separate for a little bit. And what I think they've done here is allow for Maxine gets the boost that Maxine gets as a result of Becky's thumbs up, whatever. You can show them what you're made of. Not saying you're going to win, but you can show them what you're made of. Eliminates Candice and Indy, feels quite good about herself. Says, show that to Coach Gable kind of thing. And that's a really nice moment. Then she gets crushed, as she should be. Nia Jax has her whole section with Piper. Piper has that whole section. Shayna has a little moment here and there. Like, there are bits and bobs. I'm not saying it's like... listen, I'm not saying it's a big thing, and you can do all this. What I'm saying is, now, by putting the belt on Becky, they've got the opportunity to build the stars, right? Where... if you give the belt to Liv Morgan, and there was an argument that I would have made going into it, we might as well capitalize on it. We don't know how long Rhea Ripley is going to be out of town. The last time Liv Morgan was given a belt, it was sink or swim, and she sank, right? In this case...
not her fault.
Not her fault. So there's an opportunity to correct that here. I think her work is good. I don't think it's great.
Yeah.
I think this is an opportunity for her to continue getting better and better. I think what she's done since her return at the Rumble has been really interesting. I like this revenge tour thing. I like this sort of Drew McIntyre hater energy she was bringing to the sorry Rhea, haha, like I broke your elbow or whatever and you're now out. There's an opportunity to put her into a program here so that when she gets... because when Rhea Ripley comes back, that's going to be the top babyface in the company. The second This Is My Brutality hits, people are going to scream their heads off.
Absolutely.
As a result, the person holding that belt needs to be a big enough heel or a top star of the division to meet that moment. You have the opportunity here to work with Becky as champ and Liv as underdog to build Liv to the point, to help her work together to fix the problems in this division. If the writers and the booker are smart about this and committed enough to this, they have an opportunity to build Liv up so that when she does have the belt, she feels like that top level star world champ. It's one thing to look at Damian Priest. It's one thing to feel like a star. It's another thing to hold a belt.
The other argument I have seen against this is the Becky is likely just going to be a transitional champ.
Sure.
In this, if that is the case, then I don't think that is the worst thing in the world. So weird. Every time I talk about these things, I'm like, in 2014, and it's because I'm currently in a 2014 mode. Is what we're doing on WrestleTalk Extra at the moment. Brand new episode of that drops tomorrow, where we're reviewing the episode of Monday Night Raw. Where the Shield break up. The week after that episode is when the Authority announced that Daniel Bryan has been stripped of the world title because he's not medically cleared. It's now going to be up in Money in the Bank, and Money in the Bank is going to be a Money in the Bank ladder match. The winner of that is going to become the new WWE champion. And Ollie and I were talking about this on the episode that drops tomorrow. We're talking about this, And Ollie was like, it just sucked that it was Cena, because why don't you just try and put it on a new guy? Like, why don't you try Bray Wyatt? There's a Cesaro right there. It's like, why not take a risk on someone like that? Because you're just going with the simple, safe bet. And my counter to that was, because the plan was that whoever was going to win was going to lose it to Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. The plan from Bryan winning the belt was, you win it at Mania 30, you're dropping it to Brock at SummerSlam, and he's going to do the big squash match. So if you're going to do the same big Brock squash match at SummerSlam, don't put it on a Bray Wyatt, don't put it on a Cesaro, because then that just gives them a naff transitional reign with these new potential fresh characters to feed to Brock Lesnar. And I think it's the same thing here. If the aim goal of us is to just get the belt back onto Rhea Ripley when she comes back, don't put it on a Liv Morgan now, because then she becomes the transitional champ. It's much safer to put it on a Becky Lynch, who loses nothing by being a transitional champion, in the same way that John Cena lost nothing by being a transitional champion. The reason he lost nothing was that was his 15th championship win. He'd only been on the main roster 9 years.
I think it's also just a smarter choice in general when your roster is as fragile or as limited in terms of.
I'm not comparing Liv Morgan to Bray Wyatt before people forget. I'm giving 2 examples of things that have happened here. Sorry, I've just seen a lot of people being like, Liv's no Bray Wyatt. Did he just really compare Liv to Bray? I did nothing of the sort.
Well, this is the thing, right? Is that people all have their opinion on what is and isn't a star, and a lot of it is in presentation, and especially in the women's division, they don't get presented as stars. That's part of the reason when you talk about there's no star power in this match. Well, there isn't much.
No.
Because they're not presented as that.
Yeah.
So Becky's run with the NXT belt was all about, she kept talking about, I want people to have opportunities. I want people to have opportunities. And for like a bajillion different reasons, including a man on Zoom ripping up run sheets, various people's title opportunities were taken away from them, right? Like Tegan Nox was supposed to have a go. Xia Li, that, was a whole thing as well. Candice LeRae, even Becky was even fighting for Liv Morgan to get opportunities. So before you turn it into this whole idea of Becky, there's a whole conversation when Becky Hogan is being used. I'm thinking of Chris Jericho in AEW as well, which is something that I hold my hands up, and I've not watched as much AEW this year, partly because the Collision review hasn't been happening with the lead into WrestleMania, but also because when there's only a limited amount of hours in the day and I'm not enjoying the product as much, I'll take time for myself. I can't speak on Chris Jericho as much as others. But
I think the Jericho thing is funny when people are using it as a joke. It's when people are taking it serious, then I'm like, oh no, you've misunderstood what Hulk Hogan was.
That he's trying to hold people down.
Yes, which is not what Jericho is trying to do. Jericho's as a bad politica, he's no Hulk Hogan.
Right, okay. So the reason I invoked the name of Jericho was because of this idea people have of people trying to hold younger stars down. Becky is someone who I think has it as her mission to build it up. I think she's very aware that in the current WWE roster, there are 3 women who've main evented WrestleMania. One of them is injured, the other one's Bianca Belair. She wants to fix that. There aren't many people for the younger talent to work with to have that experience of, I've been to the top of the mountain and I can help you out. You read a book, that's kind of all she's talking about, is wanting to push things forward, wanting to it's not just climb the ladder and pull it up after you, it's reach a hand down and help the next person up the ladder. So putting the belt on her, having a Liv Morgan have the opportunity to have a really good program to sink her teeth into, to potentially win that title at some point in the future, and make it so that when Rhea comes back and it's Rhea versus Liv, it feels as big time as it should be for a title like that.
Absolutely.
Building the division, Shayna Baszler. I remember she was pushing for Shayna Baszler to win the championship at WrestleMania 36, and partly because she knew she was pregnant, but partly because she was like, I've been the babyface champ for ages and ages. You should put it on someone else now.
It made sense.
That's who, but who was in charge? That's who Becky Lynch is, right? That's what we know of her. So I think this is an opportunity to make an effort to build those stars, and when you have so few top stars, you have so few Hogan, Austin, Rock women who are actively competing, and not semi-retired and coming back now and again. You need put the belt on them and have them be the leader of a division. And that's what Becky Lynch is to me.
The Hogan comparison, I think, is so funny because those characters don't exist within wrestling anymore. There aren't the Hulk Hogans in wrestling that are saying, that don't work for me, brother. I think I should go out there and win time. Like, those people just don't happen. And I remember Austin kind of on his podcast once kind of lamenting that idea that those people don't exist anymore, because it's like, this is how people stay protected. When you're always going out there to try and look out for other people, you often will lose your spot. You should try and be protective of your spot, but it's a much more like giving's the wrong word, but the idea of like, I'm not going to yank the ladder up. I'm gonna hold the ladder there to help you also climb up on that. And what I'm hoping with this Becky run is that Becky can replicate some of what she did with that NXT division. I'm hoping on a slightly grander scale because
big time.
While we can big time Bex, while we can sort of like look at like, oh, Becky had matches with Tegan Nox. Yeah, they were 3-minute matches and they sort of did nothing for either person in the end.
The noble
of the day.
idea wasn't executed.
That's exactly it. It's a good idea on paper, sort of fumbled in execution. Now, what I'm hoping for this one is that we get the good idea and not fumble it in execution. And then Liv Morgan can win it at SummerSlam. She poses with a belt. This is my brutality hits. Rhea Ripley comes down. She's fit and healthy. And we square off the uber heel Liv Morgan, who's just won the world title. Freshly returned babyface Rhea Ripley. There's your women's program to take you through to the rest to next year. Also, like that's a wonderful little thing you can do. And it doesn't hurt Becky in any way, particularly if Becky is wrestling on Raw and she's wrestling on the pay-per-views and she's wrestling on the house shows. Getting time in, making the belt feel important, and with a bit of luck and a bit of time and effort, elevating some people so that if this thing happens again, you're not stuck with a battle royal where 2 people are stars,
right? And
the rest of it's Maxine Dupree.
Yeah, and I feel like there's
nothing against Maxine Dupree.
I feel like there's something about that business Austin was talking about. If you got to protect your spot, you shouldn't be so giving. Like helping the other person get there and whatever. How much more money you can make when there's more stars than you. It's all well and good for you saying that when you're there with Rock and Triple H and Undertaker and Kane and Kurt Angle and all these names to a degree. But there isn't that breadth of talent in the women's division because they're not given that level of attention.
Should say well, it's not talent, it's star power.
Yeah,
so they've got the level of
talent.
Yeah. I just want because some people can construe that as
you're completely right. No, star power is what I mean.
Yeah, people will take your words wrong, but what you mean is star power.
Yeah, because there is an abundant talent, and if they watch the show as often as I'm on it, they'll know that I'm beating that drum even for Natalya. I'd have put Natty in that gauntlet match at Backlash that I was writing for myself. Like Amici, who had some great matches with Io Sky, or Zelina Vega, who had that great match with Rhea Ripley at Backlash, and the reaction that she got. Like there is talent in abundance in this company. Giving the belt to someone, the only Hogan-esque name comparatively of that division, she main event at WrestleMania. Well, I'm doing it to try and appease people who I don't agree with. The Hogan level star of Becky Lynch, right? The Austin level star of Becky Lynch. There's only one of them. And the other two, one of them is busy on SmackDown with Jade Cargill, elevating another talent to her level. It looked at great. Oh my God, on SmackDown when they walked out with each other in that skybox. Whoa, that made me feel good. Charlotte's on the bench. So you might as well use that level of talent to try and bring up other people to that level as well. Not necessarily exactly the same level, because you need to... What she did with Maxine. That's why I bookmarked the clip so I can watch it whenever I'm feeling sad. She doesn't go over there and say, you're going to be a big star. It's not patronizing. She's going over there and saying, show them what you've got.
Yeah.
I'll help you to a point, because then you're on your own. It puts the impetus on Maxine to show who she is. And in that match, she did it. And I appreciated that as a little bit of storytelling. That is a microcosm of what this Becky Lynch title reign should, if booked correctly, be.
But broad strokes, it was every battle royal you've ever seen, and then Becky won. But I thought the final 3 was very good. I thought the Liv and Becky working together for the main night. I thought that was really, really great. I was slightly taken out of the ending of the match, though, because Liv Morgan dragged Becky Lynch through the ropes, and it felt like Michael Cole was about to say it.
Yeah.
And then realized it was the finish of the match. I was like, I better not highlight this.
I feel like... I don't know if this is a TNA thing that's in my head, and you can tell me, Captain TNA. I feel like you could change the rules of a Battle Royal if you wanted for this match. I mean, final 2 turn into a pinfall.
Yeah, that is a very TNA thing to do.
I would have think that would... We're down to our final 2, and now we're in a wrestling match.
You can change any rules you want. Wrestling isn't real.
Well, this is very true. There does have to be some form of consistency, I think, in order to sustain the illusion of the show.
Yeah.
I was just like, can we not... Because I don't love the he's gonna fall off now. Like, I don't love that. So when it got to the final 2, I was like, now I want to see them go for it and get a pinfall or something like that. I almost feel like that would be a way to solve the otherwise a little bit naff, and that is a very accurate. I was like, well, Becky could literally just jump to the apron and pull her off.
Yeah, because
she's not gone over the top rope. We all saw it.
Yeah,
like that. There are ways to solve, I think, gimmick issues like that.
Yeah.
I'd have TNA'd it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the world would be better off if we just TNA'd it a few more times a year.
Rebellion the other day.
Well, let's do a poll here. I would imagine that.
I'm scared of this poll.
I was thinking 3 options of like Becky, Liv, someone else. Undecided, maybe. I think there's someone else I'd probably go with, because there was a part of me when I was watching this, I was like, do you know what? Just put it on Piper. Like, what's the worst that could happen? Put it on Candice. Let's just try something new. Let's try and go something different direction. But obviously, that's one part of my brain.
That for me.
Then I've got the other part of my brain. It's like, no. It makes way more sense to put on Becky, because that is the safest option.
So go ahead with the poll.
We'll do Liv, Becky, someone else.
When you talk about putting it on Candice, you and I, and I'm sure everyone watching knows how damn good Candice LeRae is, right? Or how good I've seen Viper perform many, many times. Like I'm a big fan of Piper Niven. Even a Chelsea Green, who in this match did some incredible character work.
Yeah, great Chelsea Green.
Oh my god, great! That's another example of someone getting over their stuff in this Battle Royal. That's why I liked it so much. If you give them the championship, you're pushing them in at the deep end with no armbands, right? And to a general audience who are a little bit like, well, I don't know really how to take this person because they've not been presented like that. That's the other reason putting it on Becky allows for people to be met at her level.
It feels quite harsh considering what happened over the weekend. You'd Jinder it.
You would.
Because Jinder was a job guy.
Yeah,
2 weeks before he won the world title.
And there was a way to make Jinder Mahal world champion, not in a meme way, a serious way that would have felt good, but not under that company. And again, that's why I go back to when I was sour on this match, the idea of this match going into the show, it was because I've been burned so many times by this company. Say New Era all you want, prove it to me. And this was a tiny example of them on the right track.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good match. I don't think I still think both of your thoughts are still correct.
Right.
You were not wrong to think this was a lame idea.
No.
But the outcome of it being good does not remove the fact that this was a lazy way to put the title on Becky Lynch.
But I'm more willing to be like, well, you did it effectively, so I'll let you off. Maybe it's because I'm in a good mood.
Well, WrestleTalk.com/support. You've got a lot of thoughts on this, and the poll is currently live, so get in your votes onto that. Geek of Arabia says, when I got back into wrestling, one of the new first faces I saw was Chelsea Green, but I didn't expect to care about her. Then Piper Niven grabbed the vacant world title from her, the tag belt that is, and I was won over. I really hope they give Chelsea and Piper a proper push. Becky wasn't in danger of losing at the end anyway. Liv pulled her between them, top and middle ropes during the end sequence. Liv, you silly goose. You're supposed to pull her over the top rope. Joking aside, did telegraph that Becky was going to win. Lobi here said Becky was the right choice because Becky's going to elevate the women she works with. A transitional reign where she elevates women like Candice, Shayna, and Zoe before dropping the belt to Liv on pay-per-view would leave the women's division healthier than before. Again, that is all well and good in theory. I hope that is what we're going to.
Yeah, that's the impetus is on them now to execute it well. Pull a Maxine. Do it well.
Ziggy Gamma here said, woke up and saw Becky won and I was a bit bummed. Thought this would be a good time for someone new. Brought me back to the Natty promo on Becky and how she's taking spots from girls. But then I saw a clip of Becky motivating Maxine and Ivy and it made me optimistic.
That's why it's the microcosm. It's that for the whole division rather than just in this one instance. That's why I'm high on it.
Blake here said, I just want good things for Liv. Last year was horrid for her. She had 2 shoulder injuries, her arrest, and she didn't. And don't forget, she's been dating Bo Dallas since 2019 and essentially lost her brother-in-law, Bray. Mentally, she needed the win more. But it's going to come. It's not like, well, this is it, and Liv Morgan's never going to win the belt before, win the belt again. You've got to build this Liv heel character slightly more before, because otherwise, you strap the rocket to it, you strap the belt to it, and it might sink.
Also, everyone wants to win the big one. I'm a little bit cautious on things like mentally she needed the win more. I want good things for her. I want good things for all of them. Good things doesn't inherently mean having the belt put on you when you're not in a position, when pushing you in at the deep end, right? No, this is a better opportunity for really good things for Liv.
Exactly, yeah. It's better for her not to win than to win.
Everyone wants the underdog, the chaser. Once you've got it, instantly you're less. Do you know what I mean? People are behind you less.
Oliver Townsend, the women's division The women's division has never needed a mid-card title more than it does now. There are so many under-pushed talents that it feels like they're without direction. Give them something to fight for and they'll get over. Also, Steinermath is better than the pipe bomb. Once again, I say this on every show, you can do that without belts. Aiden here said Danielson and Danielson and Ospreay was not about a belt. You can do these things without belts. Aiden here said, I'm not saying that everything can be Danielson Ospreay, before people get arsy about that in the comments, just saying that you can tell stories effectively without belts. Hangman Swerve was not about a belt. It was about the idea of going for belts.
Yes, but I also think that there's an opportunity to be done with a belt to provide a stepping stone between the two to know what it is. We'll talk about it when we get to the men's, because currently the men's World Heavyweight Championship feels like a mid-card belt.
It sure does.
So we'll talk about that in a second.
Aiden here said, Becky winning is 100% the right choice. Have Becky hold it like she did the NXT title. Build Liv up as a proper heel. Liv wins at SummerSlam, builds to Rhea's comeback, and let Becky have her more than earned time off.
Part.
I agree, Aiden. Justin has been a member for 14 months in a row. Said Liv should have won the Battle Royal, but if she beats Becky in a couple of weeks, then it's fine. But Liv needs to be the champ while Rhea is out for it to work.
I think more crucially, Liv needs to be the champ when Rhea comes back.
Yes,
I think that's what this... We don't know how long that's going to be. So you put the belt on Liv, and there could be a really boring period of time, and then Rhea comes back, and it's inevitable. Use this time to make Liv who we all want and believe Liv can be in time for Rhea to come back.
Kuzu here said, and again, I just saw there, that's not a fair comparison, Luke. I'm not saying that the Raw Women's Division is just like...
I am!
Ospreay and Danielson. I'm just saying, that is a match that is not about a belt. You can do storylines that aren't about belts. It's actually very easy to do.
You just
know that CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre is currently not about a belt.
Yeah.
It can be done, people. You don't need a world title or a mid-card title for people to have feuds over.
You just give Natty and Candice LeRae 25 minutes on a pay-per-view and watch those stars come in. I'm honest. I'm not even doing a bit.
Do stories. All you need to do is write stories for them. You've got a whole team of Hollywood writers, apparently. Give them something to do. Kuzu here said, Raw was such a different show without Cody. Never occurred to me how exciting he made it every week now that he isn't there. Show was fine. Becky was the right choice, and people need to understand that. Probably her versus Liv at Backlash. I didn't even think I'd do that at Backlash. I think I would wait to do the Becky Liv match until Liv's going to win the belt.
Yeah, do some stories. Give Becky a good run, keep this belt meaning something, so that when Liv wins it, it's not just now I've got what I wanted. Liv has the belt.
Yeah. Will Campbell said, I think that given the case with Rhea, you need to put the belt on an equally big star and reliable hand like Becky. Not only does it help keep the title at the top of the card, but also makes whoever wins it off her before Rhea returns look that much bigger. Absolutely will. Baxter here said, hey there, boys. This was an okay Raw. Becky winning the women's title is the safest choice for now. She's the most overstar next to Rhea. She can have a nice but probably short title reign and put over the newly healed Liv Morgan in a few months. I agree. Chris here said, that was the worst Raw in a long time. The pop is over. Down the hill we go. Becky is just Charlotte at this stage, stealing others' moments, just like all the horsewomen do. Who's actually gotten more over thanks to Becky? Zayas released, Liv stalling, and no Alexa return. 0 out of 5 show. Alex here said, what's up, guys? I was a bit gutted Liv didn't win. Honestly, I'd love to see Liv join Bo in his new group, especially considering her eerie stare down into the camera backstage after the match, and they could take on Rhea and the Judgment Day. Your thoughts? I mean, I'm ready for Judgment Day to be over.
Yeah, big time. And I actually we'll come back to it.
Yeah. Survivor 1993 has been a member for 19 months in a row. I feel so bad for Becky, but those announce table spots. Yeah, they did not look like they were fun to take.
Yeah, she's a trooper.
Let's do our next spot. Alroy here. So the choice of Becky wasn't a bad choice, but I don't think it was the best choice. Liv didn't need to win, but there's a plenty of time to revitalize, and I think it was a missed opportunity.
I think this is how you revitalize the champ. That talent, personally.
Raffers here said, I don't mind Becky as champ as long as it's not just a lead-in to run Charlotte versus Becky again for Charlotte to win. Though saying that, after listening to Becky's book, they could capitalize on that and keep blurring the lines of reality and kayfabe.
You want to talk about a match that doesn't need a belt?
Yeah.
That one right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have an unknown username. Please do let our moderators know. We have a Streamlabs issue. I think the reason why the Battle Royal didn't live up to expectations was because, as you said, a lack of star power. Specifically because it was in Columbus, and when Raw is in Columbus, who are people looking for? Hint, rhymes with Agenda Crisp. I don't know, because I heard that reaction. It's not like people weren't chanting, where's Alexa? People weren't chanting for Alexa Bliss. They went bonkers when Becky won. Like, I don't... Am I mad here? Am I wrong in thinking that this crowd weren't there for Alexa Bliss?
This is where there's a sort of element of smartness that I think it leads into overthinking. I feel like she'll be part of the Pentagon story, which is the latest thing that's come out of the what's it called, the Matrix QR code.
The Bo Dallas thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So Penta, it was in big letters. I think that's what
Penta's coming in.
Well, that's what I thought, and then I was like, oh yeah, because it was going to be the Wyatt 6. I think they're going to make it a whole 5 thing, and Penta was in giant letters, so that might be the name of the stable or whatever. We don't know this. We'll find out when we get there, but I think I'm just a little bit like. It's the same thing with we know Liv's dating Bo Dallas, so why won't Liv be involved? Sometimes it likes to blur real and fiction. Sometimes the smartness can take us too far.
I've said this about I didn't want Naomi in the bloodline.
Yeah. The great example. Example.
Kid here said Becky losing to Rhea, then winning after Rhea vacates the belt feels like Ember Moon losing to Asuka, then winning it after Asuka vacates the belt. Both feel like, yeah, you won, but you didn't beat the champion to win it. It just feels a bit watered down.
We can make that part of the story.
Yeah.
Blake
here says, Luke, build new women's stars. Also, Luke, bring in the SmackDown star women for the match. You see how those are 2 very different ideas that are actually not butting heads.
They work in tandem. They do work in tandem. I don't think it was necessary here, but they do work in tandem. Like they're not opposing ideas.
But it is not like this match then built a massive star out of Shayna Baszler or Natalya. No. My point was more, this match was lacking in star power because we've spent a year not building them to be stars.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, so you need to bring some star power in with some of the other stars that you have built.
Yeah.
So that is not me being like, those aren't 2 opposing ideas.
No.
What that is just build some new stars, and then you wouldn't have to bring in the SmackDown stars to make this feel like it's a star-studded thing.
I don't think bringing in Jade Cargill would have made Shayna Baszler a bigger looking star in this match.
No, but you wouldn't have had to do that if you'd have made Shayna Baszler look a star in the first place.
And that's where yeah.
Totally. Dan here said, not this one.
No, I don't, yeah.
If we're being honest, Damian Priest doesn't feel like a world champion yet. If we also put the women's title on someone who doesn't feel like a world champion yet, where does that leave Raw now? They needed Becky now. I mean, I agree on that one, actually. It's a really good point. Damanger Gamer here said, anyone else see Becky go through the middle rope at the end of the match instead over the top? Kind of took me out of the match. Also, I think Liv could have done more with the belt. She could use a belt as bait for her enemies in her revenge tour. The Beastly Gamer here said, personally, I feel like Nia should have won. I think she's done great work since coming back, and I think she could have a good reign for a few months until Rhea comes back. It would be a fresh face on top, and it would make her a credible monster heel.
You could have made a very, very good argument for Nia winning that belt.
Yeah. Will Campbell said, as Dan said before, look what Becky did on the NXT belt did for people like Tiffany and Lyra Valkyria. Becky's program with Tiffany boosted her to superstar level, especially after the banger at No Mercy, and it made Lyra's eventual win that much bigger.
And it's also that thing about, like, again, doing... Tiffany Stratton ultimately was what made Tiffany Stratton get over. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, I'm going to use my star power to give you the opportunity. And then she did the prettiest moonsault in the game, and leapt her way into stardom.
Yeah, I don't... I'm trying to find the nicest way to put this.
The diplomatic way.
The diplomatic way. The viewership of Raw is so much higher than the viewership for NXT.
Yeah.
So it's not like Tiffany was a star because of what she did down in NXT. She feels like a star because they presented her as a star since she's come into SmackDown.
But again with the single swim, again with the pushing you in with no armbands.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because of doing that program with Becky Lynch, when she's presented with a challenge of being a star on SmackDown, she's ready for it. Yeah. That's what it's all about.
But those are, again, 2 different things. Yeah. But you're right. But also, this point over here was also correct.
Yeah. I was complimenting that point. At least I think I was.
I know. Well, I think you were. It's just that I'm trying to make sure. Won't. Well, what I've learned over the last couple of weeks is that if you can have 2 ideas in your head but are diametrically opposed from each other, people think that you don't agree with it. You have to agree with one or the other.
That's the whole world. False choices. I'm big on this. We'll talk about it off air. But yeah, that's very the world right now. Chris
said Becky isn't Hogan or Stone Cold. She's Cena from Mania 39, and she doesn't elevate anyone. Let's look at Lyra Valkyria. All momentum gone after beating Becky. Super Bianca is still a thing. All the horsemen can't let others have moments. Monet Sunday with Willow. I would say, Chris, this is all storyline though.
Yeah. Like also, Bianca wasn't a horsewoman. Bianca was there because one of the horsewomen put her over.
The thing with Monet and Willow, that is a storyline on a show that Mercedes stole her moment.
Yeah.
The commentary team mentioned that it is part of the storyline that she is turning heel and she stole the spotlight away from Willow.
Right.
So it's not like Mercedes Moné saw that match and was like, fuck this, no one's talking about me, pushed people out of the way and stormed down to the ring. Play my theme music, Tony Khan. In the same way that John Cena didn't show up at WrestleMania 39 and was like, I'm putting over this Austin Theory kid. He did some terrible promos leading into it, but ultimately it is the booker that made those decisions.
And it's very simply, none of these people book the show.
No. Michael Abbott. Oh, wonderful. Michael Abbott here. Said, good evening from Bali. No idea what happened in last week, but looking forward to catching up. Unsure over Bex's win. It's my 40th birthday tomorrow and I'm having breakfast with orangutan, so off to sleep. Keep going. Good. Love years. Jam that jam.
Happy birthday.
Absolutely. Love to you, Michael.
From Bali.
What a lovely... Michael's such a good bloke. All right, well, let's get into the...
Do you know how cold it is here this week? I'm wearing layers, Luke. I'm wearing layers.
I'm wearing my summer shirts to will in some good weather. We had Pat and Michael Cole in the ring to explain that the title had been vacated, and they threw to a video package to explain that the title had been vacated. I wrote here, this feels very Vince. Then Jey Uso came out for a promo. You'll hear me say the words blank came out for a promo a lot on this episode. And he said that I'm here to prove that I can be the world champion. Damian Priest came out and said that, look, we both worked hard to get to the main event, but really I'm the one who's next and I'm the one who's now. You're just on the first of a list of people that the machine are going to feed for me to make me look good. Jay then said that the only reason Priest is the leader of Judgment Day is because Rhea's out, and now you're going to be Dom's bitch. JD McDonough tried to attack Jey Uso, but it didn't work, and Jey Uso left while Judgment Day crumbles around him. You mentioned it earlier, and I suppose we'll talk about it now. It feels very mid-card.
It really does feel very mid-card, and this is a massive problem. I think there is a nugget of... I think Damian Priest is a star. I think he's got an incredible look. I think he's got an incredible... Do you know that picture of him at WrestleMania when he's holding the belt in the press conference and he's got his hair and the glasses and the suit? Oh my God, he looks great. When he was on... I keep talking about it, but he was on Sunday Brunch and he looked like a...
Was he really?
Yeah, so he was on Sunday Brunch when he won Money in the Bank. Came across as a massive star. Cody was on Good Morning Britain recently. Oh my God, what? First of all, real handsome. Looked like Kate Garraway was melting, you know. But like...
And it's not easy to impress Garraway.
Well, she's got, you know, high standards, and as well, she's a serious journalist. Melting, she was. He looked fantastic there. That's what you want from your champions. There's an aura and a swagger, and I think Damian Priest has got it. But there's something about the delivery of the material, something about the way he looked in this segment, something about the words that he was saying about, "Hey, look at us." Who would have thought of it? It just it rang hollow, and it felt so mid-card. He's got something, right? And I think I really, really so strongly feel like if they'd have done this story, or if they'd used the Money in the Bank with Finn Balor with this world title back in the summer, I think you could have maybe really made him look main event proper.
Yeah.
Here, he has an air of the Intercontinental Championship, and it's exposing the Money in the Bank concept as one that is inherently flawed unless you give it to someone who is ready and they use it quickly.
I think it exposes more... because it's not the world title. I don't think it exposes that. Because the world title has never felt as big as the Intercontinental title, thanks to the great work that Gunther did with the belt.
Yeah.
I think the run into WrestleMania did elevate the title somewhat because Seth was involved with The Rock.
Yep.
But even then, like, you know, it's Roman's promos being like, I don't think that particularly helped things. I think the problem more with Damian Priest is, and this is what we were talking about in the lead up to WrestleMania, of like, I don't think that Priest is going to cash in Money in the Bank, is because they had not built him up to be the main event guy. So I don't think that is an inherent problem with Money in the Bank. That is not an inherent problem with the world title. That is an inherent problem with not building stars.
Yeah.
And you spent almost a year, 9 months, say, from when he won Money in the Bank to WrestleMania, and you didn't do the things that you probably could have done to make him feel like a top guy, so that when he cashed in and he won the world title, he feels like he is the main event. Because last week's show, Cody cut essentially a farewell promo to Raw, and with Seth out, Seth has had surgery now, so he's going to be out for a while. CM Punk
Good for him.
out. CM Punk is out. Drew is now a heel. So he endorsed Jey Uso. Jey Uso is now the #1 babyface. He's the top babyface on Raw. But again, has not been built like he's going to be the guy to replace Cody Rhodes or Seth Rollins or CM Punk. He was like #4, #5, probably below Sami Zayn in terms of
because you know who is the #1 babyface on Raw? It's Sami Zayn.
Sami Zayn,
the Continental Champion.
So Jey Uso is now the #1 babyface, or supposed to be going for the world title, but he feels like main event. The mid-card Jey Uso going up against another mid-card guy who's got the world title because you didn't spend the time making them feel like credible guys before you put them into this position.
I think Jey Uso is wildly entertaining. I think it's hard to argue that when he comes
He's
out.
over.
And that part. He comes out and it feels like a vibe and it feels good energy. And I think he's good. I like Jey Uso very much. I was very anti the cash-in. I think the cash-in at WrestleMania was incredibly well executed.
Good moment.
Great moment. Really delicious little extra wrinkle for the CM Punk Drew McIntyre story. It has, though, taken the belt that was really starting to feel like something, and if Drew McIntyre had it, it would have felt like a proper big belt.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pulled it back a few steps as well. And I think that there is I understand why they've done it, but they've got a rod for their back now, making it feel like a big deal again.
I think it's the King of the Ring tournament feels like a bigger thing than the world title does in the moment with the people who've announced themselves for it.
Exactly that.
And that is because you've spent the last year building a star out of Gunther and building a star out of Drew McIntyre. It's amazing how
it's not. You can't just put a belt on someone and have them be a champion. You once mentioned it. The idea. Damian Priest can take all the losses because he'll just cash in and.
I was going to say that's WWE's mindset.
Yeah, and
with
I
Money
hate
in the
it.
Bank.
I hate it.
I hate it.
Because it's so ineffective. It should be on a tear so that they're a threat at every game. They should always be looking over their shoulder. It makes me cross.
The World Tag Titles were on the line as DIY took on the Awesome Truth. Truth and Miz won when they hit the Truth crushing finale. After the match, Johnny Gargano shook hands with Miz and Truth, but Ciampa refused to shake hands because in the Triple H era, if you can't get over as a babyface, just turn them heel.
I thought they were getting over as a babyface a little bit. Like they were starting to peel a bit of steam, and I thought maybe we'll just put the belts on them, and then we've had our fun with the Awesome Truth, and now
we had our WrestleMania moment.
Yeah, and I apologize for manifesting it because I didn't realize it was going to last this long. Like I really truly thought Raw after Mania, Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin are going to bash them into existence, but nope, here we are. So
and they're winning matches.
Yeah,
DIY.
Cool. All right, I really don't know what to do with this.
No, I guess not.
Yeah,
I don't. But
and I'm a Miz guy.
Now we've lost Imperium as a tag team. I think New Day feels like not past it, but like if they just put the belts onto them, that feels like that's not really doing much with the division. So yeah, I don't know who else there is. It can't be Alpha Academy. They're in their own different thing now.
Creed's maybe going to do a thing, but like we're not there yet. I feel like we'll get ourselves through the draft.
Well, that's it. We are in a bit of a holding pattern until the draft. Backstage, Priest told JD McDonough that there was no plan. I don't know what you were thinking when you came out here. And then Dom Mysterio revealed he is also injured. 5 Select report this is a legitimate injury. There's no timetable on his return. He was pulled from the matches that he had in the European tour. And Priest tells them to handle their business because this is copy and paste from every Judgment Day segment. And Dominic Mysterio was sporting a wonderful
white mustache.
Quite the mustache.
I don't like mustaches, nor do I like mullets. For some reason, I like them both on Dominic Mysterio.
What do you make of Ben's?
Ben is producer. Ben is a man who's able to make whatever choices he wants. I think Ben looks good for Ben. Good for you, Ben.
Producer Ben showed up today, and he's got he looks like he's about to challenge me to a race around the world in a hot air
I was going to say
balloon.
he does look like a villain in black and white, and I actually I think it's a serve. I won't lie to you.
Gunther came out for a promo, putting over his IC title reign, but he said, you know what, thank you, Sami Zayn, because the weight has now been lifted off my shoulders. I've always had a target on my back, but now I am the hunter rather than the hunted. I'm going to go into the King of the Ring, and when I win, it's my choice of which title that I'm going to take. I won't just be the General of the Ring, I will be the King of it. New Day came out, and
the King General was right there.
He didn't need to.
The King General. He could have.
No, he didn't need to because he made his point already. It was like, I'm the general of this ring and now I'm going to be the king.
The Ring General, the King General.
Yeah.
It was.
But you knew what he was saying.
No, but he could have said it. And then I could have had it on a t-shirt.
Okay. later on, Gunther said, "This is all beneath me." That's beneath him.
I don't know about that.
So New Day came out, and Xavier Woods reminded us that he won King of the Ring last time and announced himself for the tournament as the defending champion. They made fun of Gunther for losing the title. This is where Gunther said this is all beneath him, and they made a match between New Day and Imperium, and Xavier Woods said, "We've done this match too much."
Yeah. My sentiments exactly. I really like King of the Ring for Gunther, incidentally.
Yeah, me
I feel
too.
like it's going to tide him over nicely for a little while. It's a good way to keep on TV. And he's the obvious favourite, right, going into it. Or at least I thought that until Drew McIntyre also threw his hat into the ring. And I was like, good, we're having stars.
I think Gunther's I would say he's my current favourite to go in and win.
I agree. He's probably mine. But I think the fact that it's a trophy to win at the end of a tournament and not the defending champ adds a little bit of extra peril. Because you don't have that smart question of, well, are they going to keep his reign going and what do they do with him next or whatever, which I quite like. It adds that element of like, oh, it could go one way or the other, which I look for in my wrestling. Also, I like it because I don't see him putting on a crown, and I hate the King gimmick more than anything in the world.
I've got 2 hopes and wishes for the Triple H King of the Ring.
Yeah.
Number 1, it is for a title shot. And if Gunther wins, have that title shot at Bash at Berlin. Mm-hmm. That sounds like a great idea to me. Number 2, get rid of the crown. Hate the crowns. Do not call him King Gunther.
Yeah.
Get all of that in the bin. He just won a tournament.
Yeah.
He is King of the Ring, and that is the be-all and end of it. It is not a new character for him. He is just...
It's an accolade.
It's an accolade that he's got. He won the King of the Ring tournament in 2024, and he gets a title shot out of it. That is what I want out of my King of the Ring.
Yeah.
That is what King of the Ring used to be, and I want that again.
Yeah, I agree.
And when I say used to be, sort of like in the late 90s to the early aughts. So then we had New Day versus Imperium. Much like my GM mode, this feud was on cooldown, and New Day won.
Yeah. Giovanni Vinci is so good. Like, he's a really good wrestler. And so is Ludwig Kaiser. So I would like more for them than this.
So,
and then,
yeah, afterwards, Gunther walked to the back rather disappointed in his team for losing, and then they had a hilariously long tease of basically it was like snog of the breakup, because then Kaiser turned on Vinci, threw him into the ring, and then beat him up in the ring as well. He then walked to the back and told Gunther that he took care of it. So yeah, we have sort of not broken up Imperium, just kicked Vinci out of Imperium. So perhaps there is a spot open for putting some new people within there. Or it's just a case of maybe they'll just go off in there in separate ways. Like Vinci can go off on a singles run. Maybe you don't need to add another person in there. I did see someone earlier say, like, Luke doesn't want Imperium to break up, but keeps going on about how Judgment Day needs to break up. It's because you've done everything with Judgment Day. Yeah. We haven't even started anything with Imperium yet. Like, we put the group together and then just started teasing them break up. And then haven't done much with them since. That's why there's still things on the table for Imperium to do. And I still feel that way. I still feel like there was something to do with Kaiser and Vinci within that tag team division that I don't think we fully explored yet.
I wish they'd had a tag title run. I will say, in a previous era, Vinci becomes the Jannetty. And I don't want this for him.
I think he's going back to NXT.
I think he's far better than being tossed aside. And if going back to NXT means he gets a little character refresh and gets a good run, I would like to see it. I
think you get lost in the shuffle. If you stay on the main roster, you are getting lost in the shuffle.
Right. What deeply irritated me as well on this is that when Ludwig Kaiser showed himself to be quicker than Usain Bolt and ran around the ring and bashed his head into the stairs, Michael Cole was like, it's the same thing he did to Kofi Kingston. Why did he do that to Kofi Kingston? It's because Kofi Kingston gave Vinci a concussion. Can we sell Vinci's concussion more than we can sell Kofi Kingston's involvement? Like, you know his history with concussions. Like, can use that. Like, why? That was a little thing that really got on my nerves.
Drew came out for a promo, and he did the big sit-down thing as well. Don't film up my skill, you perv. CM Punk hates the fans, and he also hates himself. He then accused the fans of kissing their cousins and wanking too much. He got screwed out of WrestleMania. He got screwed at Raw, and he's announced himself for King of the Ring, which I'm really, really excited about. And then Sheamus came out, and I was like, okay, so...
Are you ecstatic about Too Many Limes?
I
actually liked his old thing. I also prefer this current Drew theme to Broken Dreams. Sorry about it.
Oh, me too.
Right.
I feel like I'm glad you're here because I felt like I was the only man in the room last week when I said that this theme is better than Broken Dreams, which I think is
massively better. I think the same reason like the Sheamus one is that it feels like a charge. Do you know what I mean?
The thing with the too many limes is that I hold too much of it as like, well, it was just the meme.
Yeah.
Of like early day Twitter, it was like the meme.
Yeah.
Was too many limes. So I can't take that song seriously. But, maybe I'm not supposed to. But I got excited when Sheamus came out, and cards on the table, this was far and away my favorite thing on the show. Like, I loved this segment, as I have done with most Drew segments, because there's something about Drew segments that don't feel like... You kind of look at what the Damian Priest and Jey Uso thing was earlier. Like, it's a lot of, like... It's catchphrases, and it's just, I'm going to say call and response things. But this is, like, real human, raw emotion. Like, Drew doesn't feel like a character. Drew is just Drew. And Sheamus standing across the ring was just Sheamus. And they're mates.
Best man in that.
This just felt like actual humans as opposed to wrestlers, like, in a way, like, if that makes sense. But, like, I know that they're all wrestlers. But Sheamus had this great point. He was like, dude, you were champion. Like, you kept telling me all of these years, the only thing you've told me is that you're going to win that world title in front of fans. And you did it. And then you blew it. And why? Because of a social media spat and a t-shirt. Like, you threw everything away for that. And that is a friend telling another friend some home truths that they need to hear. And Drew, not knowing how to process that, went route one and just said, well, you're fat, mate.
Yeah.
Because he said, look, you used to tell me that it's banger after banger. Since you've come back, it looks like it's burger after burger.
Objectively a brilliant line.
It is a great line. But what was great about that is it wasn't really... It came across it was Drew going route one, but it's not. And this is why I love Drew McIntyre so much. Drew is making reference to a social media thing from last week that not everyone in the building is going to be aware of. And he then turned that into a kayfabe scenario that is within the wrestling world, which is... That's what everyone was saying about you in the locker room last week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone in the locker room behind your back is saying, you've gotten fat, mate. But not me, because I don't say things behind your back because I'm your friend, and as your friend, I've got your back.
Yeah.
I'm really, really interested to see where we're going to go with this Drew Sheamus thing. And I actually feel like this segment here has elevated Sheamus.
Oh, massively.
This is now feeling like Sheamus is not maybe on the same level as Drew, but it feels like he's on a much higher level than when he was last week.
Yeah.
So he then, like, when he went up against Shinsuke Nakamura, and I was like, what a downgrade for Sheamus. Like, because this is an easy win for him to get. This felt like a big, like, moving up the ladder for Sheamus. I really, really liked this.
I did too. Drew's big book of grievances is always fun. When he sits down, he starts whinging, and as is the way, they all had a nugget of truth, but he wasn't telling us the whole story. It's like, consider the source. You're fibbing about stuff, and we know you are. We can see it. We can see up your kilt, Drew. And so I like that Sheamus, exactly the same as you, being here. I know you best. I'm giving you your dose of reality. It's what friends do. Friends are honest with you in that way. Like, they don't... It's not about being a dick. It's about being fair and honest and being like, but you're better than that. And actually, did you see the video that Drew posted about why he... So there was a video backstage at one of the live events in the sold-out European tour that only went to the UK, where he said, like, to all the people online who have been saying, like,
Dan, we're in Europe. Like, I know you think that Brexit means Brexit, but, like, we
don't put that stink on me.
We're still in Europe, Dan.
It's like when they say we're doing a UK tour and they go to, like, London, and that's it.
London and Birmingham.
Yeah. But
maybe Manchester.
There you go. Good luck, Wales. So he basically said, like, to the people online who have been saying, like, why didn't you just leave? It's your own fault for not leaving. When you won the belt, you just stayed to mug at CM Punk too long. And he kind of gave his argument for that. And again, what I really like about this is that it is like he's terminally online. Sheamus is like, get offline, mate.
Yeah.
And his response was, here's what people online say.
Yeah.
And it's so good. The character work is so good. Him just like casually leaning on the announce table the whole time. The line about watch your back, I was fully expecting a Claymore at the end of this. It didn't come. Even better. Yeah, I'm with you. I absolutely adored this. Also, Sheamus being fat. Tell me you don't know what bulking and cutting is all about. Like, the guy was getting in shape. You have to eat loads of calories and bulk yourself up. Because look at him. One week and he's already...
Sean Ross Sapp on the Vital Thing said, I feel like those bicycle shorts were an optical illusion.
They were.
Last week.
In a way.
Like his old Sheamus O'Shaughnessy shorts.
Yeah.
Sheamus O'Shaughnessy's.
They're not all gold.
Went back to the trunks. Looked great this week.
Yeah.
And I thought he looked great last week, in fairness.
Like, I mean, also, like, he's just a bamf. Like, he's going to batter you. Like, ultimately, whatever, that fist is going to knock you out. But, like, he's in great shape. It's just the way that cutting and muscle building and all that works. Yeah. Like, which I know all about, as you can tell by my guns.
Kathy Kelly interviewed Sami backstage. He said, look, I'm not going to talk about the Chad thing. I'm biting my tongue. There's a lot of things I want to say, but I want to hear what Chad has to say first. And Bronson Reed walks up and says, well, really, you've got a big problem, and that is me, because I'm coming for the IC belt. He then attacked Sami Zayn. Security broke it up, and then Reed attacked him again. Bad night for security and producers. That is 2 fights you tried to break up, and you just let them get free and beat them up some more.
And they've got another one coming.
Do better, P.D. Williams.
Anytime, any place is a really annoying phrase when it's not followed by cool, I'll see you in the ring then. Like, it's a thing that, remember when it was, the Xia Li thing where she was always like, I want a title shot. She's like, well, anytime. She's like, okay, well, not yet.
Not yet, though. See you later, mate.
So I would have liked for Bronson Reed to even say something like, all right, sleep with one eye open then, mate. Because I feel like, I don't know, I just hate it as a phrase. But I really liked this. Battering. And Kathy Kelly with the quick reflexes. Straight out of the way.
I don't know if I told you my new phrase that I like to see get put in the Room 101.
What?
I'm putting the division on notice.
Right.
Yeah. I don't need to ever hear a wrestler say that ever again. So Chad Gable came out for a promo, and some lad had a go at Gable on Pat's show, and then Chad gave his reason for why he turned heel last week. It should have been me. And he's like, Sami stole my moment at WrestleMania. He knew what that moment meant to me. And then to make matters worse, he put the belt in my face, but I'm the better man. So I raised his hand, but then he had to take it one step too far, and he hugged his wife in the crowd. He knows that should have been me hugging my daughter in the crowd. So I had to do what I had to do. I've been spending too long training losers and hanging out with dorks. Called Tozawa a loser who just dances all the time. Said Maxine is pretty as a princess and dumb as a box of rocks. And don't even get me started on Otis, the #1 guy. From now on, this is what the Academy is going to be about. It's honest feedback and working to make sure that Chad Gable wins the IC title. Together, we're going to win my Intercontinental Championship no matter what. And he makes Otis say, no matter what. And the sad comedy characters walked sadly behind the evil heel afterwards.
Attacking Sami Zayn is one thing. But calling my Alpha Academy losers, that just broke my heart, Chad Gable. I hate you now. I thought this was a good segment. I liked it very much. I liked the fact that I like the fact that he pointed out, because for me, when Sami Zayn put the belt down in front of I was like, you're a dickhead. That really got me. If I'm Chad Gable, I'd have slapped him because it felt. I know where Sami's coming from, being like, "Wow, what a hard-fought match," and I won it. Like, sod off. Get in the seat.
Oh man, we went really hard at each other there, and I was the better one.
Yeah, and I've got this championship is mine and it's not yours. But like, what a match that was! Really got on my nerves.
What did you do at WrestleMania? That was it. Nothing.
I got it. Yeah. So for me, Chad Gable is well justified. But the second he starts talking, I'm like, I accept the other heel and I'll buy into the story. You're insulting Otis and Maxine and Tozawa. Get out of my life. I am looking forward to when Otis stands up for himself.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward even more when the Creed brothers come out and attack. If the reports are to be believed that the Creed brothers are going to start some form of heel stable with Chad Gable, give me Team Gable, like Team Angle 2003, but it's 2024 and it's there's a Bruce's Ball. I'm all about it.
Apparently that was Charles Barkley who was the bloke who was on Pat. Was it really?
Yeah.
I did not recognize that as Charles Barkley.
They said it was Charles Barkley.
I did not hear them say that.
Oh.
I just saw them. I was actually waiting for them, the end of it, to tell me who it was.
Yeah.
I did not recognize that was Charles Barkley. I've seen Space Jam. Everybody get up. It's time to slam now.
There you go.
There's a real jam going down. Welcome to the Space Jam.
Quite. I have nothing to give.
It's a chance if you dance at the Space Jam. All right. It's a great film. So last week I was a bit of a Debbie Downer on the Chad heel turn. Not because I didn't think it was executed well, because I thought it was executed brilliantly, and I think that it was an awesome heel turn and a great moment, and it kind of caught me off guard. And I love him literally ripping Sami out of his wife's arms to give him the German suplex. Loved that. My thing was more, I was like, I didn't think we needed to turn Chad heel, because I don't think we'd had enough of the babyface run yet. Right. I still think there was gas left in that tank to do some stuff with the Chad babyface run. So I was kind of like, it wasn't like I was down on it. I was just more like, man, like we could have had something really good. Also, I think we could have really built this story better as opposed to doing it in 4 weeks. And I think we could have spent a bit more time building to this moment. But I thought this was a very good promo. And I'm quite looking forward, as I said, I'm looking forward to that moment when Otis does stand up, because I think Otis is one of those charismatic guys that can make that moment mean something. And the crowd reactions to these 3 people, getting dressed down by Chad Gable, shows that people are really invested in the Alpha Academy.
Well, so that's why I disagree with the idea that we didn't have enough of the babyface run. I can see an argument for keeping it going, but I got my fill last summer
In that one match?
No, in the whole angle with the Viking Raiders and that. The business of Maxine joining them and him starting to train Maxine. Do you remember when she could do the suplex and it was the best thing I've ever seen in television history? Like, I loved the fact that it just I had my boys. Do you know what I mean? My little Alpha Academy team, and also Maxine joined them, and then their situation with the Creed brothers. They had that great match. Gable going for Gunther. I loved all of that program. So I didn't necessarily, it would have been nice for Chad Gable to be reheated and win the belt in a babyface fashion at WrestleMania, but that's not the angle they're going down. And instead, I think they've pivoted and turned it into a great follow-on angle for the Intercontinental Championship after after Gunther, AG. So I kind of got mine, and this for me, and the reaction to this, and the fact that it was effective and got over with the crowd is sort of proof that babyface run did what it was supposed to do.
I still think there was still room on the table to do more.
But I don't think it was premature, personally. I think there was more you could do, but I don't think it was like, we didn't even. Whereas Imperium, splitting them up, premature. This, they had a run. I don't think it was premature.
My argument that I gave last week, so I won't repeat too much of it here because people have heard me talk about this already, was that we had a really good moment. He was getting so much organic babyface momentum, and then we just pressed pause.
Yeah.
And then we did nothing and nothing and nothing and nothing and nothing and nothing and nothing, and then we turned him heel. And I feel that there's a big chunk there that's missing of, like, you could have done something really good in that time when you were doing nothing. You could have had a really good run, which would have I then wouldn't have been sat here being like, man, I wish we had more of that babyface run of Chad Gable, as opposed to him doing the Gunther match, losing, and then just being a tag guy that loses on TV every now and again, and then turns heel.
I don't think it was quite as abrupt as that, but I can see why you would make that argument.
I think it's classic Triple H, is that he's very bad at follow-up. We then had, speaking of follow-up, Ricochet tagging with Andrade to take on JD McDonough and Santos Escobar, who filled in for Dominic Mysterio. Very wacky finish to this match, which saw Andrade throw JD McDonough off the top rope, while on the other corner, Santos Escobar hit a top rope Hurricane Rana, which turned into Ricochet hitting a leg drop on JD McDonough, and then Andrade hit his finish for the win. Then after the match, Damian Priest got in the ring and beat up both Ricochet and Andrade and told JD and Dom, I don't need you, you need me.
It was this that made it feel like a mid-card belt. Like, the people surrounding this moment, like the match, what Priest did, I was like, at no point did I feel like, there's the big champ. You know, I didn't feel that. I didn't think it was great. What I did think was great was Ricochet and Dom backstage, and then Liv comes in. And this is something I put a little pin in earlier on. Because they had a little stare down to Liv and Dominic Mysterio.
They did.
And I'm kind of into the idea of Liv Morgan turning Dominic Mysterio's head. And because already they were going in different directions. Rhea Ripley's just got that electric charisma, and she's getting over as this big baby face. And Dominic Mysterio is Dominic Mysterio, and he's too good at being Dominic Mysterio to try and have him keep up with the Ripleys.
Nope.
So I'm looking for how, and I thought they were doing a decent job of slowly disentangling them a little bit. I like the idea of Dom going off with heel Liv.
He needs a new mammy.
And then when Rhea comes back, I want a Rhea versus Dom match. I'm all about that. On the way to Rhea versus Liv.
I'd love that.
It would give me everything.
That is a superb idea. Because this was brought up on the Fightful post show last week.
Right.
Because I did it on 3 count of my 3 words were pegged by Liv. Because it used to be pegged by Rhea. And now he's going to find his new mammy.
Yeah.
It's funny as well because, like, when people say like the mammy thing, you say it in America, like it is, it sounds like a very cool thing. When I say it, I just sound like I'm talking about
an Irish nanny.
Yeah, exactly.
Mammy,
I talk about me mammy.
Yeah.
So I think Liv has said I want to take everything from you, and I think that includes Dominic Mysterio.
Yeah.
And so she's going to go.
What's the revenge tour? The revenge tour doesn't end with a belt unless you take it off Rhea. But like the idea of like picking apart Rhea's whole life, and again keeping Rhea a presence when she's not on TV, I'm so into it.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea. And then we had the Women's Battle Royal to end off the show. I gave this 3 out of 5. I thought this was a totally fine little episode of the TV show.
I was generally unenthused. I think we'd had such a good run of shows, including WrestleMania and including the Raw after WrestleMania, that I was like, oh, a little bit underwhelmed personally. But
yeah, it was a totally fine episode of television. One of those shows where I say there was a bit too much talking, and not a lot of the actual wrestling stuff. But I thought that some of the talking, in particular the Drew segment, I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, I think the main event, I do think it was a very effective choice.
And I think the Becky being the right choice, I thought it was a very excellent way to end off the show.
Yeah.
So thank you all so much. We've got a poll going up to let us know what you thought, if it is a thumbs up, thumbs down, or thumbs in the middle show. While we give a special shout out to our wonderful backers over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Head on over there now to get exclusive content like WrestleTalk Extra, where Ollie and I are currently reviewing the year 2014 and looking at the breakup of the Shield. Brand new episode drops tomorrow, which is us reviewing Raw, the June 2nd edition of Monday Night Raw, where the Shield break up. And let me tell you, if you think this was a bad episode of Raw, you should go watch the June 2nd edition of Monday Night Raw from 2014, because that was butt ass until the final 5 minutes of the show. And that was the overrun. So it was real bad. Really bad show. But go and check that out over there. We'll be reviewing that tomorrow on WrestleTalk Extra, as well as early access to the Monday Night War and the booking podcast that we do over there, and exclusive episodes of Survival Series. And if you're one of our $25 and above Patreon Pledgehammers, you get your name read out on the show like these fine folk. The man who wears the gold, the man recognized by Swaff Nation International as the 24/7 champion, our legend.
Reese Cook, what the Rock is smelling.
Mr. Moneybags, Rich Holt.
Daylight Robbery, Rob James.
Yo, Adrian. Rocky.
Der Farm General, Roman Dietrich.
Ross, Pooper Scooper Cooper.
Rue the Day, Rory O'Brien Kelly.
Enter Sam, man. Sam Register.
The man with the scoops, Sean.
The movie Luke has never seen, Selena.
The Pharaoh, Stephen Mazzaferro.
And that is your Hall of Fame class for Tuesday, the 23rd of April, 2024. Let's get into the rest of your remaining Ultra Chat, kicking things off with Timothy. Who says, I love Becky Lynch so much. The little moment with Maxine pre-Battle Royal almost made me cry. With everything she's dealt with online and storyline, it felt massive to have my GOAT, who had her own struggles, pull Max aside to give her her love. Becky is the best.
Yeah, I want to acknowledge I have a little bias towards Becky, because I've always been a fan, and I like her story, and the fact that she went away from it, had that giant crisis of confidence, and somehow found the strength to go back and where she's at. I've got a lot of respect for her. So
I was there in the trenches in 2018.
Yeah.
When this company kept telling me that she was a heel, and I was like, no. Yeah. She should be your number one babyface. Push her as such. I remember being there in 2016 when the draft happened, and she just got thrown onto SmackDown with a bunch of nobody. It was like, oh yeah, here's a consolation belt for you. Now try and make something of this. And she bloody did.
Yeah.
The NXT days where I was pulling for her to win, and Bayley was my girl, but I love me some Becky Lynch. Those four working together were just magic.
Yeah, I think it's very easy to forget what impact they had.
Absolutely.
That's why whenever I see all these comments about the horsewomen are always going into business for themselves, it's like, you don't remember.
I get a lot of crap online because I point out, and I don't think I'm wrong in this, that they are the ones who really did start this women's revolution in WWE. Yeah. I know that Paige and Emma had some matches in NXT before,
and they were very good,
and they were very, very good. But when those four were actually pushed as almost the main event scene of that show, that is the moment that women's wrestling in WWE did change. Not taking anything away from Paige, not taking anything away from Natalya and Emma and all of those matches that they had. It was the four horsewomen. It was that Charlotte Natty match that really did forced WWE to put a spotlight and be like, oh, maybe TNA have been right since 2006 and we can make money with women.
I mean, Becky talks in the book about nearly signing with TNA instead because this is when she was before she took her break, because they did women's wrestling better. I also did you see? You know this, I'm sure, but you see Michelle McCool recently on some podcast having a little chat about how she had to once go out and redo her match because it looked better than the men's match.
Yes,
that's what the women's division was dealing with for a long time, and that's the reason that this idea that women's wrestling sucks exists to a certain portion of the audience, because of the attitudes of certain people in charge and the attitudes of people doing the hiring and doing the booking, and so it's why I'll always sort of fight against, think of that match that Charlotte had with Natalya at NXT. That goes to show the quality that was there. Think about the things the Four Horsewomen did. The fact that they were able to get away with it. The fact that they were able to force the hand a little bit. And even pushing against certain attitudes that still were present in the company until as recently as January.
They made that title mean something in that division.
That's what I'm talking about.
In that promotion, they elevate that women's title massively.
And it's easy to forget it.
To the point where the women's segments, much like in TNA, became so much more exciting than the men's segments and what the men's division was doing. And go back to historically in TNA, women's wrestling in TNA in 2006, 2007, 2008 was outdrawing the men in terms of ratings to the point where they were going to launch a whole second show that was just the women's division. Yeah. That was just the TNA knockouts.
And that's why it's revisionist history for Michael Cole to mention Gail Kim. But I appreciated it anyway.
Yeah. Gabriel has been a member for 33 months in a row, says, I didn't like the Super Becky aspect of it. Would have been fine if the table spot was taken out. I'm sure Triple H knows best and time will tell. As a result of the poll, crikey, it's closer than I thought, actually. Becky, 49%. Liv, 31% of the vote, where someone else got 18% of the vote. So Becky, half of the votes there.
Yeah.
But I thought the Liv one might be slightly stronger, but I think that actually just shows that it's the vocal minority in the Liv community who are angry at the Becky Lynch thing.
And I think it's see the big picture.
Yeah. Nick Devine here says, I just don't want to boo Chad Gable. Sorry. Yeah, me too. JLL said, I think the Chad storyline has legs. A slow burn of manipulation where Cesaro and Maxine do start to believe heel Gable, yet Otis pulls away. It can eventually set up Gable versus Otis for the title. Obs Chad wins that match. Yeah, I don't know if this is going to lead to Chad winning the belt. I don't know if this is going to elevate Otis into that position. But I think that... Sorry, I should say it back, because I think Chad will win the IC title eventually.
There's something... But again, it's I think the other reason I'm into it is there's a lot of different reasons. Things... He could win it as a heel and it'd be and have this Otis return moment and it be for the belt and Chad wins and then moves on. Or it could be remember who you are and bring him back from the ring. I have, again, there's more faith in the storytelling now than I have at any point as a WWE fan in the past 25 years.
Caleb here said, hello lads, hope you're doing well. What are your thoughts on the speculation that Ilya Dragunov will join Imperium? I was into the idea a few months ago, but I'd rather see him cut loose on the IC division by himself. Thoughts on who will move in the draft? My one that I'm pretty if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I would put money on is LA Knight being drafted to Raw.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
I think he is better suited to that world title picture and will flourish more in there than feeling massively underwhelmed against someone like a Cody Rhodes.
Mm-hmm.
I think he will be much better suited to being on Raw.
Carmella Hayes to SmackDown. Baron Corbin back to SmackDown for that tag team with Bron Breakker.
Yeah, fairly safe bets.
I'm intrigued by who might go down. Vinci's a good shout.
Vinci, I think Ivar, the report sides, Ivar and Final Testament are probably headed to NXT. But yeah, as for Ilya Dragunov, I'm kind of pushing for him as a singles guy.
Mm-hmm.
There's a worry that he could just get lost in the shuffle. So at least if he's with Imperium, then he's on a featured TV show, a featured TV group. But I don't think Ilya needs to join Imperium.
Yes, I agree with that.
Tirolo Marcus here said, one side. I'm really sad that Imperium split up, but let's be honest, the booking of Vinci and Kaiser has always been crap since the call-up. I hate the booking for the rest of Imperium, and Vinci becomes better now.
Well, they're always there to be the ones who take the fall for Gunther, and that is something that inherently, that's why they can never be tag champs, because they have to be the ones to be able to take the loss. So I do see the point of saying that, it's kind of that double-edged sword. They play a very effective role, but it is limiting for their success, I think.
Kat here said, first the Usos, then Vinci and Kaiser. What is Triple H's obsession with breaking up tag teams that don't need to be split up? At least a Vinci and Kaiser match sounds much better than a sleeper brother match we had at WrestleMania.
That one was Roman's idea.
Yeah, I mean, also be careful when you say the sleeper match, because that makes it sound like people missed out on a really good match.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's what sleeper means.
Asselroy here said, it really hurts to see that crowds do not react to DIY.
My worst part of it is when they do the little sit on the apron and pat themselves on the back. I hate it.
Do you know what I don't think is really helping? Maybe this is just me. Them being a little DX cosplay thing.
It all is so cringe.
I wrote in my notes here, and I didn't want to say it because I was afraid that people might come after me for, and I've got enough of that on my plate at the moment. But I was like, it makes them look like massive geeks.
Yeah, that's it. And I hate being us calling anyone geeks.
Huge undercard, like, dorks. Like, with their DX cosplay nonsense.
Right.
And then during the match, Ciampa gave a crotch chop and hit a pedigree. And I'm like, oh, lad, it's so indie-rific.
Well, if any one of us YouTubers sat behind a mic calling someone a geek is the highest form of, like, what's the word?
It's a
hypocrisy.
It's a different kind of geek.
No, but this is what I mean. It's the only word that's appropriate. So I agree with it completely. Like, they look like geeks. I hate it.
War Eagle said, I was there at Raw last night. The crowd was vocal for everyone except for Santos for whatever reason. Yeah, he got like an anti-pop coming out. My section did boo Liv and cheer Becky. Columbus truly does love Mammy. For me, it was a 5 out of 5 show, but it may be because I was there. Jam that jam. Deck Collector said, a show in a new era started with the Awesome Truth winning a tag title match and ended with Becky Lynch winning a women's title. Instead of building the company around DIY or Shayna Baszler, they instead defaulted to established stars. It's just boring. I don't know if I'd go that far. Matt here said, I think with Raw, the guy who should be the top babyface on the brand is Sami Zayn, not Jey Uso. Priest and Jey felt better suited for the IC title picture, where Sami felt like a top guy holding the mid-card title. A position you wouldn't have been in if you'd have gone with Chad Gable. Joe C. Will J said, hello Luke and hello Dan. Predictions here. As Drew McIntyre has still not re-signed, and that's up around June time. If Punk is healed, can we see Punk Cena in Chicago 2011 reaction with Drew in Scotland? Punk versus Drew versus Damien at Clash of the Castle. Drew wins, and when Drew wins the title, he leaves via the crowd blowing a kiss at Punk. With Drew now gone from the company, he can be off TV for a month, returning to attack Punk, setting up the singles match against him at SummerSlam. Thoughts on this?
Yeah. So, yeah, I want it. My whole business with Drew, I think I've said it before, is that he can do whatever he wants. He can sign wherever he wants. I don't see him being used this effectively, creatively, any company other than WWE right now. I think I think he would get lost and shuffle a little bit, or like. I think the work he's doing here is so outstanding. I hope he resigns and carries on. But it's his choice to make. If he does resign quietly and they want to turn it into the summer of Hunk, I think what's fascinating about that's so different from the summer of Punk is, what was that about a new relationship with AJPW and TNA and them being more open to working with other companies? I would look. Don't do your look and think about it. Let me get there.
WWE famously always works well with other places.
It's a new era. Haven't you listened? They've said it many times. But the idea that they had Jordan Grace, the idea that they might allow a Drew McIntyre to show up in the crowd of TNA with his belt on, doing all the stuff that would have been great for the summer of Punk, but only we really got a little taste of, and then it was over. It was back again 2 weeks later or something.
It was a stupidly short amount of time.
Yeah, they could do it this time, and I find that mad interesting. I'm into that as an idea.
I would agree with you. My hope is that Drew does re-sign and stays here. I disagree that he wouldn't get this level of creative elsewhere.
I just don't see him. What does he do in AEW? Honestly,
you can carry on this character. And you can do this within AEW. Like I don't think this is an exclusive to WWE thing. I think you can do this Drew hater character anywhere. You could do it in TNA. You could do this
in the main event.
Yeah, absolutely in the main event scene. If anything, AEW could do with some like extra, like some new faces within that main event scene.
I don't see it personally.
Lobi here says, I'm not going to lie, without Rhea and Dom, I'm really not interested in Judgment Day. They really brought the charisma and entertainment value to the group, and without them, I don't really care. Excited to see what they do next. Matt here said, I think Becky winning was the right call. She's the biggest star in the division because once she signs her new deal with WWE, she's going to be the highest paid woman in wrestling, but that also adds to her Liv story. Of the last 2 years in WWE, Liv has been the runner-up. Back-to-back Royal Rumbles and Elimination Chambers. I don't think Becky has a long run as champ. I think Liv winning the title at Backlash and Becky could get drafted to SmackDown. Maybe. While I'm disappointed DIY didn't win the tag titles, I do like the direction. I don't think they're splitting. I see one of 3 directions. One, they go heel and beat Awesome Truth for the tag titles. While I want them to be champs, they've been organically over as baby faces, and I'd rather them win the tag titles as baby faces. Then as heels, option 2, they go to SmackDown and with a more serious edge, still as baby faces and win the tag titles from A-Town Down Under at SummerSlam, which is in Johnny's hometown. Option 3, they tease the champ return more on TV, like the NXT during the revival. They win the tag titles and have a short run as champions, lose them, and then champ returns to Gargano in time for WrestleMania, which is what they did in NXT. Really like the Chad heel character. Glad Finn is staying with WWE. Dude looks like he's having fun. Yeah, Finn Balor re-signed with WWE. Very, very smart. Apparently the big money offer. I don't know on the Becky thing, because obviously Mercedes Moné is now officially the highest paid woman in wrestling history. It'd be amazing. I'd love to see if WWE can match that, because the thing the people have been saying about WWE in these contract negotiations is that Tony Khan will always offer more money. And if he can offer more money and that forces WWE to have to offer more money, and then Becky gets a much bigger payday out of this, then that is a huge upside for anyone. It's a huge upside for everyone in this industry. So I hope that Becky Lynch gets that money. Kasika D93 said, not so much related to Raw this week, but Mania 40 and The Ram were my first WWE shows since the Saudi deal. I, personally, was not a big fan of it as most were. The overproduction for me took me out of it. But something I noticed almost immediately was, modern WWE music is pretty stinky bad, huh? I had yet to listen to most of the stuff since CFOs was dropped from their contract, and the music nowadays is just not good. Anyway, my silly comments aside, much love.
That is the hottest take I've ever heard. You actually have landed on something scorching there. You have no idea. No, yeah.
Music stinks in WWE. It's rubbish. Chris said, do you know what the worst thing is as well? Do you know what one gets stuck in my head? DIY's theme. But I cannot tell you how it goes after the intro. I cannot. If we were doing this on Quizlemania, I would not be able to do it. Yeah. But I can do the what that bit that just gets looped in my head. Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah.
Chris said, I'm about done with the double standard WWE and the fandom have towards. Why only the horsewomen Super Bianca or Crybaby Ronda can waltz into title matches or moments of people like Alexa, Asuka, and now Liv, who are as important. I'm not even hyped for the Wyatt Six now. Chris, I know Alexa wasn't on this show, but it's not it's not a real reason to be this angry about it. Anonymous here said, I think decades of short-term quick pop booking have made people develop bad habits when watching WWE. This is an episode that did its job setting the table, and that's necessary for long-term success and satisfying stories. Jacobs here said, I know Luke will disagree, but I would prefer less wrestling on weekly TV, more promo time. Bloodline, Drew, Cody all got over mostly through mic work. Give Gable and DIY and others promo time vignettes to build to great pay-per-view matches. That's how you get over. Guess what, Jacobs? You can do both.
Yeah, it's a balance of the two.
Yeah. It's not that I don't disagree with you, because promo time does help people get over, as does matches, and you can do both of those things on 3 hours of television. It is actually very easy to do both of them. Did you see the infographic? That WWE, both Raw and SmackDown, has more commercials than in-ring wrestling.
I did not see that. That's quite funny. Well, that's America.
Yeah. Prime here said, Ospreay attended Pride this week, then puts on one of the best matches I've ever seen in an interview where he talked about his struggles with autism and just how I feel like someone who's representing me and just happens to be insane at wrestling. I just love him. I think Ospreay's great. He's such a good dude. Aluna said, forgot to say this yesterday, Roderick Strong versus Kyle O'Reilly in the brother versus brother match that WWE wishes the Usos had. Love you all, Go Steiner Maths.
Also, I just threw a shade at America, and they think I've got some weird anti-American thing. You have no idea how much of an America-phile I am. I'll move there tomorrow.
I was listening to a Wrestling Observer Radio from June 2nd, 2014, in preparation for WrestleTalk Extra. And Brian Alvarez opened the show, said, hello everyone, welcome to Wrestling Observer Radio. It is June 2, 2014. really paused it so I could send you a voice note. How's it going, everybody? Brandon Snyder has become a member and has got no message, as has Asselroy. And we've got a couple of last-minute chats to go through here. As Zachary said, hey, guys, it's been so long. How's everyone been? Just wanted to ask Luke, what do you think of the new Big Monkey and Big Lizard versus Other Big Monkey movie? I have not seen it yet.
Me neither. I've not been to the movies in ages.
Have not seen it yet. Unfortunately, yeah, I've not had the chance to go to the pictures. Yeah. And the only thing I might be going to see, like I want to go see the new Planet of the Apes movie, but they're doing, the Prince Charles are doing a series. They're showing pretty much, I think they're showing all of the Showa era Godzilla movies. So I've written down the ones that I could possibly go to. So I'm going to try and go to as many of those as I can. And next month, they are doing a Transformers 40th anniversary event where they're showing the first 4 episodes of the TV series. Those are the things I might try and go out of my way to get the pictures for. Mr. Toff here has been a member for 15 months in a row, but has no message. Loby here said, oh, that's the one we had earlier about Rhea and Dom. And then legit underboss Jimmy Thomas said, for the 2 film guys with Tony Storm's story being based around all about Eve, what other classic movies would make good wrestling stories? Clerks.
I think, and I don't know if they've ever thought about this, but I really think there's something to be mined in the Rocky franchise. I
think there's something about Clerks. You can get that in there. It's like, some guy's not supposed to be there today, and he was called in.
Yeah.
And then, another wrestler dies wanking on the loo. Like, there's so much stuff from
the parents. Maybe they could do something with that.
Yeah. I think there's stuff to be mined from the Will Ferrell era of comedy from Elf. But yeah, I can't think of a serious answer to that, unfortunately.
I'll have to think about it for a little while.
Pulp Fiction. Let's tell wrestling stories out of order. Oh, actually, no, they're doing that.
We'll do it backwards.
They're doing that with The Way.
There you go. They are very...
Is that the ending of that is John Travolta being shot in the bog? Like, that is the first angle we had in that storyline. I saw someone say that got shown at a film festival recently because it's 30 years since that film came out, and someone behind them said, "Oh, it was really smart of John Travolta to fake his own death so he could be, to fool Bruce Willis."
I've never seen it.
Oh, you should do. It's very good. I mean, spoilers, though. All right, let's end this poll and see what you thought of this. Low, I will say, although rather split. It is currently looking to be 54% thumbs up, 40% thumbs in the middle.
That scans for me, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought
I was middle.
Yeah, I thought it was a very middling episode of Monday Night Raw. But, like, as that Ultrachat said earlier, necessary.
Yeah,
because you
drafts
can't,
on the way.
Drafts on the way. You can't have banger episode after banger episode after banger episode. Sometimes you do need to just. Okay, actually, you know what? No, you're absolutely right. I mean, you can do. It is actually totally possible for you to do so. We'll be back on Thursday with the AEW Dynamite review. So please do press the subscribe and leave a comment down below with what you thought of this episode of Raw. Give this video a thumbs up. I've no idea if it helps in the algorithm, but it's part of my spiel, so do it anyway. Thank you everyone who's joined us live. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you on Thursday. I've been Luke Owen, DAD. That has been the Professor Dan Layton. Jam that jam!